introduce Director of Shabtai, Toby Hecht, to share some closing remarks with us.
Good evening. Thank you, Caroline Waxman, Dean Lewis, and Professor Post for your meaningful words. Thank you, Rotem and Moshe Sarfaty of Tel Aviv, and Renee Edelman for sponsoring this important event. And lastly, thank you all for being here tonight. It is written in the Holy Zohar, the book of Kabbalah, the mystical secrets of the Torah. Bechia tekia belibai mesitra, v'chedva tekia belibai mesitra da. Weeping is lodged in one side of my heart, and joy in the other. This verse has been repeated for thousands of years, with the understanding that there are times when these two opposing forces of sadness and joy can and must permeate human existence simultaneously. Today is one of those times. Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, are intimately connected to this verse. We've lived it and breathed it across time and space, and it is how we have endured. But what does this mean really? How can we translate it today to inspire, to encourage, and as the Code of Jewish Law says, Yiskaber ka'ari la'amod b'boker, to wake up like a lion every morning to serve the Creator in the face of terrible devastation? How do we bear witness, give testimony to our children, like our grandparents and great-grandparents did for us, going all the way back to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, our patriarchs and matriarchs, and over the millennia since? What is our obligation here tonight to those who were murdered 1 year ago, and for whom we are still grieving in ways we never knew about grief, and for those who are still held in captivity? What does it mean when humanity witnesses incomprehensible evil, targeted rape, butchery, and slaughter, and then claims never again? They will never forget. But then it is forgotten, and never again is now again. How can we reconcile the emotions of anger, fear, and exhaustion with joy, love, charity, clarity? This well-worn verse of the Holy Zohar then explains the duality of what we have always done and what we are doing here tonight, what commemoration means, how we remember our beloved, the Kedoshim, the holy ones that died before their time in the most gruesome, barbaric fashion, and while remembering how they were murdered, how they died, at the same moment, we eternalize how they lived, how they danced, how they gave, how they served, how they serve, how they helped, how they loved, the gardeners, the artists, musicians, the peacekeepers, the caretakers, mothers, fathers, men, women, children, the elderly, the Holocaust survivors, Israeli, French, German, Americans, Bedouin, Thai, Argentinian, and more. The hostages dragged across the border into dungeons. Yes, it seems like a challenging paradox, perhaps an impossible one, to at once remember, to see the victims of ruthless barbarity, and also see goodness in a godly world. And yet these moments must also be a guidepost on our journey forward, where memory of better times and a promise of our posterity ensures our tomorrow. On Rosh Hashanah, we read a passage from Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah. Kayamar Hashem, kol v'rama nishma nehi b'chi samrim rachel mivaka abanaha. Thus said the Lord, a voice is heard on high, lamentations, bitter weeping. It is our mother Rachel, who was buried in Beis Lechem on the road to Babylon. She is watching her children go into exile, and she refuses to be consoled. And the verse continues, where God tells her, keep your voice from weeping, your eyes from tears. There is reward for your deeds, and there is hope for your future, God says. The spigot of tears and pain, heartbreak and loss must live side by side with trust, faith, practice, joy, and love, to lift the souls of those who perished, to give them an aliyah, an elevation, and a prayer and a promise to those still held in captivity by cruel barbarians, and for the rest of us, in spite of the trials and tribulations, to know and connect with our purpose as the Jewish people. Ashreinu matayv chalkeinu, umanayim gar aleinu, umayefa yerushasenu. How lucky are we? How good is our portion? How pleasant is our lot? How beautiful is our inheritance? We say with pride and a stolz, steadfastness, la'olam va'ed, now and forever. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rebbe Menachem Mendel Schneerson of blessed memory, was the Moses of this generation, who led with unmatched leadership and love for humanity. In an era fractured by grief and malaise, much like today, international correspondence and visits to the Rebbe was the antidote for thousands of people, my family included. On September 20th of 1954, the Rebbe wrote a response to a group of young women in school in a small village in Israel, all survivors who were troubled and seeking a path forward in the aftermath of the Holocaust. Baruch Hashem, thank God, 22nd of Elul, 5714, 1954, Brooklyn, New York, to the group of girls in such and such place. Blessings and peace. It has been some time since I received your letter, and for a variety of reasons, my response has been delayed. At the cusp of the new year, which is upon us and all the children of Israel, for good and for blessing, I come to you with this response, if only briefly, since the questions related to the content of your letter are very difficult to address in writing, and I hope that Mrs. So-and-so will explain the following points which require greater elaboration. All Israel, as believers, children of believers, believe that the blessed Creator guides the world with particular divine providence. It is therefore understood that there is nothing, no matter how small, that is meaningless. How much more so this is true with regards to the human race, and especially so with regards to the chosen people, namely, that every individual Jew has a particular mission, which is not only relevant for themselves, but for the entire community as well. It is easily understood and is apparent to all that the purpose of life is not to acquire enjoyment from the pleasures of the world, but rather humans are born to toil, and through one's toil in Torah and mitzvot, which are eternal, one achieves spiritual contentment, especially when one also helps others. This is what we mean when we call the Torah of life. It literally provides us with a meaningful life in this world. It is self-understood that this does not mean that one is required to spurn the physical pleasures of this world to the extent that one engages in asceticism and self-flagellation. As it is well known and emphasized in Hasidic teachings, that such practices are not encouraged. Rather, what we mean is that one needs to know what is more important and what is less so. The pleasures that you emphasize in your letter, which you are having a hard time being separated from, these are not of real importance, and you should not attribute greater importance to them than they deserve. You yourself surely know that they are not important, even completely lacking in anything substantive. All of this is true in ordinary times, and how much more so in our generation, in which the shallowness and emptiness of so many ideologies have been made apparent to all, and that neither wealth nor physical strength will stand by a person in his time of need. In this generation, it has become easier to see the simple truth, as many false faiths which cloud the mind have been removed. And those from our people who have remained like brands plucked from the fire of great destruction, the Holocaust, each of us has a responsibility to see ourselves as an emissary to fulfill not only our mission, but also the mission of those who were taken from us before their time. And just as with regards to the Jewish people in general, those who held fast to the Torah and mitzvot remained until this day, And all those groups which strayed from the path have either disappeared or remained few and dwindling. So too with regards to the individual, through committing to a life of Torah, especially in speech and deed, one acquires his share in both the next world and in this one, and that all one's days are filled with meaning and satisfaction. The main implication of all the above is that Torah and mitzvot have shielded the Jewish people from destruction, despite their being the smallest among the nations, and having to contend in every generation with enemies who rose to destroy them. Torah and mitzvot are the thread which connects all Jews across history from the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai to the present day. It is my prayer and my hope that each and every one of you will follow this path which has been paved for us by our forefathers, and that each of you will thereby have a life filled with physical flourishing as a result of its spiritual flourishing, with blessings to utilize your capabilities and talents and the spiritual heritage inherited by each of you in the battle to remain committed to the victory of the Jewish people and its Torah, and to influence your surroundings in this regard. Blessings for a sweet new year and the Rebbe's signature. In planning the secular anniversary of October 7th, a few days short of the upcoming Simchat Torah festival, the Hebrew date of the massacre, Shabtai decided to hold this musical evening of song. One could ask, and many have, why dance? Why sing on this tragic day? In 1994, while attending rabbinical college, Shmuley had a conversation with one of the 20th century's great Kabbalists, the holy Chassid, Rebbe Greenglass. Shmuley asked him how the Jewish people would survive in dark times ahead, to which Rebbe Greenglass, a man of few words, replied, the nigunim, the melodies will sustain us, he whispered. My maternal grandfather, Beryl Weiss of blessed memory, last saw his parents, sister, brothers, nieces and nephews, and my namesake, his grandmother, Baba Elka, then in her 80s, in 1944, while waiting in line for selection at Auschwitz. In the ensuing chaos, his father, Yonah, pushed him hard to the right, which miraculously saved his life in that moment. The rest were sent to the left, and immediately to the gas chambers. My grandparents, whom we call Babi and Zaidi, dedicated their lives to practicing Torah and mitzvahs and helping others. They were successful business people and world-renowned Ba'alei Tzedakah, philanthropists, from the needy brides, widows, and orphans who knocked on the door of their Hancock Park home at night to friends, strangers, employees, and immigrants, institutions big and small. And although they both wept for their families until the end of their lives, singing the songs from their childhood, words of King David, the sages, the prophets, brought them tremendous solace and joy. In Jewish homes on Friday night, we welcomed 3 angels to the Shabbos table, famously known as the Shalom Aleichem. When spending Shabbos at our home, Shmuley and I and our children sing Shalom Aleichem to the tune my grandfather would sing in his house in LA. He had learned this particular tune on the trains in between labor camps. Imagine, they were singing about angels, welcoming the angels to the Sabbath table in the midst of utter hell and darkness, starving and physically broken. And today, my children, their great-grandchildren, sing the special melody of Shalom Aleichem as a symbol of strength and perseverance. And it was Zaidi who introduced our family to Yehuda Green over 18 years ago at the wedding of my youngest sister, Razel, named for his only sister who was murdered alongside her young children. Yehuda, a world-renowned singer and songwriter whose voice and music pierces the heavens, and who with his wonderful quintet will lead us in song tonight. As we stand on the threshold of Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, and in the spirit of the holiness of the day of October 7th, I wish each of you long life with health and prosperity, and in defiance of the mayhem and hate spewing across town halls and campuses, this one included, and across the globe, we the Jewish people have an obligation and privilege to restore humanity to its noble cause and divine calling for a genuine peace. And may we do so and collectively know only revealed good and joy in our lives, and peace and tranquility for all mankind. We shall dance again and again and again. Thank you.